Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian, and I honor your presence here today. I wanted to just offer you a very simple tip that is helpful to meditation. And we all know that, sometimes meditation doesn't go as smoothly as we envisioned or hoped. Our mind gets scattered, runs away with thoughts, etc. What that actually is essentially our brains are like receivers. I would say they're transceivers. Um, and a whole lot of the thoughts that we get are not even our own, but rather are picked up from the ethers, um, or from the conditioning over the years, from our childhood till now, where we've cultivated that little voice of the critic or the distractionary commentator within our own minds. We identify with those things, or we attach or latch on to those things, and then we get carried away by them. And that such is the intellect, such is the mind. But here's two little examples that can be very helpful in allowing the mind to settle and clear, much as a muddy pond would do on its own when it is left undisturbed. So keep that in mind. Um, Having a peaceful mind for a meditation session, or throughout the day at any time, is not something which is worked on and achieved or attained by striving. By now you've caught on to the trend that most things within spirituality and the realm of the divine and the soul are not striving and exerting and working hard in nature, but rather are matters of allowing, opening, becoming receptive, flowing, assenting, things like that. So, there's the story of the Buddha when he was walking with several of his disciples, and they came to rest not far from a pond, and the Buddha said, "Would you please fetch me some water to drink down there?" So his disciples went down to get some water, but it was very muddy. They came back to him and said, "Oh, Lord Buddha, we went to get you the water, but it was muddy and filthy, and we couldn't give you that. So, what should we do to clear the pond so that it's clean for you to drink?" And he said, "Just leave it alone." And of course, it probably took hours, etc., to settle of its own accord. But the point is, don't meddle with it. Leave it alone. Let it be. What comes, comes. What goes, goes. Let it come, let it go. So here's two metaphoric examples that you may find helpful in allowing the muddiness of your mind, or the noise within your mind, if you will, to clear when you're doing a meditation. And a meditation, by the way, I'm a stickler for definitions. When I say meditation, I mean a relaxing of the mind into a natural emptying of its own accord, so that you return to a calm, clear, peaceful state of sublime bliss and presence. The Buddhists love to call it mindfulness. I don't like that word. If there's anything I don't want to be full of, it's my mind. And so I use the word presence. So allowing all the noise and all that is not you and is not yours to fall away from you of its own accord, until you return to your true core nature. And beyond that, I'm not speaking of anything strict or very defined regarding meditation. But I'm not speaking of contemplation, which has an object of your thought and consideration. So the Catholic and Latin term meditatio actually means contemplation, not meditation in the Eastern sense. So I'm speaking of meditation in the Eastern sense. So let me get to the point here. Two things you can envision which will help you to get into the right state of assent and allowing and flowing, which will clear the way for your mind to return to its natural state of peace on its own. The first one is, and I credit Brother Bob for teaching me this one many, many years ago. He said, anytime you're beginning a meditation and you have static, you have mental chatter, noise, just envision those thoughts the same way that you look at the credits at the end of a movie. You've watched the movie and then the credits roll down, but nobody pays attention to them. You're only seeing them maybe on an unconscious level. You're not engaging yourself into them. You're not grasping them or identifying with them or holding on to them and letting them drag you away. They just roll by, sort of in a lesser dimension of awareness. They just roll down the screen. They come and they go. They're gone. You have not injected yourself into them. So think of those noisy, chattering thoughts that may come and go when you're trying to meditate. I'm making fun of that word because you know that you're not trying to meditate, really. If you are, you're moving towards exertion and striving and away from being in that state of peace which is natural to you at your core. And the other example is if you just imagine that your mind is like a tree. It is stable, peaceful, and still. Yes, it may sway a little bit in the breeze, but it is firm and secure, and it is stable. It is a constant, okay? But birds come along and perch in its branches and twitter and tweet and make all kinds of chirping sounds and flutter about. And then after some time, they leave. Well, these thoughts are like the birds. They come uninvited. They speak their piece, and then they leave undismissed. You don't need to invite thoughts. They just come. And you don't need to dismiss them. They will pass. So observe the tree of your mind with no judgment, no attachment, no injecting yourself into it, no grabbing onto, no chasing away. See birds come. See birds go. Observe passively, without any real care, that thoughts pass through the tree of your mind. And eventually you will come to realize that less and less of these birds come until there are none, and you have the calm, peaceful awareness and bliss of being the still tree. So those are just two tips that may be of some use to you in your ongoing practice of meditation, however you approach it. Whether you do 5 minutes a day, whether you do a couple of hours a day, or whether you forget about it for a few days and then try to get back into it, whatever it is. And also I would suggest that it is better to do more frequent, brief meditation sessions, 5 or 15 minutes, a few times a day, than to say, well, it's got to be 2 hours or nothing, and then I didn't get to it today, or I blew it off till tomorrow, etc. Better to think of it like sending a ping, It's better to send a ping into presence, even just for a few minutes, a few times a day, rather than saying, well, it's got to be a 2-hour-long session or I'm not going to do it, or it's not worthy of being done, etc. So I hope that those two things, the credits rolling by at the end of the movie and the birds flying in and flying out, help you in your own personal cultivation and meditational practice. And remember that you are a divine emanation of divinity from which you've arisen. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.